Hi there everybody, my name is Kate and welcome to my channel, Trinergy Awakens Naturally. Oh my Lanta! I just got done with a hike and there's just so much stuff pouring in, so many downloads, I can't hardly keep up with it, but I love it. Bring it on, because I know it goes into some storage container in my mind somewhere that we'll get this all figured out. That's okay. There's some situation somewhere where people are getting some real hateful stuff thrown their direction. Come on, friend. There's somebody that's possibly throwing demons or black magic or trying or doing something, and whomever it is on the other end that's supposed to receive that is being troubled by it, is being scared by it. And if you don't know what that's what it is, or you feel, like you've got poltergeist up your butt, that can be quite scary. However, let me tell you something about this. Spiritual warfare bullshit. It's real. It's not bullshit in that it's not real. It's just bullshit in that, yeah, I can't believe we're still here, but I can, because people are dug in deep with their little entrenched bad ideas and what they're going to do to bully everybody else and make this stop. And ain't nobody making anything stop. Not me, not you, not anybody that's working for the light and for the good. So let me tell you something about video I made the last video I made talked about, dealing with my own demons, and they looked like demons I was familiar with. Doesn't mean that I didn't see some nasty bullshit coming at me. I saw all kinds of monsters and all kinds of stuff that people that are throwing hate, especially if they're putting it into a formalized bad idea or a concoction, a brew, Google Magic, however it's coming, if they're putting it especially through those formalized and they're intending with mirror work or scrying or any of that stuff, it can bring up some very scary looking things. And whatever they're trying to send, they can in fact get some traction with it if we're open for business to receive that. And that's not a slam on anybody, because I had some show up, repeatedly for quite some time, of people that really were doing their best to shut me up and shut me down, in a lot of different ways. However, when it showed up, I was at the point, thankfully, I had been given a lot of information already, and that's why I'm sharing it with you, that I could stand in the face of that and say, who are you? Who sent you? Unpocket yourselves, and make yourselves known to me, because I don't know you and you smell funky and you're here looking like you want to harm me, and the problem with entities that people are using or throwing or trying to whatever is that those entities, however much energy they have on them and how dark it is, we can actually do damage to ourselves. We can run ourselves, off a cliff or something, or we can go into a mania and, hurt ourselves, or we can do all kinds of things, start, murdering someone else, or doing things that are just really terrible and hostile, and will get us into a lot of trouble and ultimately our demise. So it's not that, I don't personally have not seen yet where an entity or a dark force or something like that has actually materialized and caused me to do something or caused anyone else to do something. It's that it can cause me to take my own self out, which is the best way that some of these live human beings think is going to work, is that terrorize this person so much that he or she just takes their own life, and then we've gotten our way, not understanding that, yeah, you're still not going to win. You've already lost because you're working on the wrong side of this. If you're not working for the light, you ain't right. That's just the way it is, I'm sorry to say, for people who really, really, really think they're going to have it their way. I don't have it my way always, and I do work, in the light, but I don't always get my way, because I don't want to have to do some of the things that I have to do. I don't want to have to say, I'm sorry, where I've had to, or pull back or move forward in places. It's a matter of being obedient to what I know I hear, and I don't listen to fear. Fear is not what I'm obedient to anymore. However, it was a great tool for me personally. It's a great tool for most of us. That's generally how we get told, is to be working in the vulnerability department with someone and have them, tapping that or tapping old trauma. Trauma bonding with people is a great way to get them to do what you want them to do. When one person has an upper hand, and they're going to keep smacking on your boo-boo. They're going to make it hard. And if we're not the type that would return fire on that and start digging deep into their vulnerabilities, wow, thank you. We've got a yummy snack. We've got a meal that we're going to be on this one for a while, you know, snacking and coming backing. So the idea is that when we're dealing with our own demons, you know, such as addictions or toxic relationships or something out here that would be a very personal demon, that's ours. That is ours. That's our past. That's our, you know, whatever we've done. That's our problems, our codependency. It's ours. However, when we start feeling these crazy maniacal things, it can be a couple of things. It can be that we're getting karma because we were tossing that around, or it can be that that's somebody who is tossing it to thee. You know, there's only a few different scenarios of why we would be experiencing really crazy looking or crazy feeling stuff, and it's not ever, in my experience, related to anything except a spiritual crisis of some kind. It's either mine or it's thine, you know, and if it's mine, then I can identify that by coming in here and saying, okay, I'm terrified and I gotta hang a hold of something, but it's not my fear. I can't hang on to my fear because my fear leaves me right here, toothless and, you know, dead, and everything scavenged off by my bleached and dried bones, you know. So clearly fear hanging on to that really gets us nowhere good. It's a fast track to nowhere or dead, you know. It doesn't, not anymore. You have to stand in something more than that. And so if I'm going to cling to something, what am I going to cling to? Clinging to a person, a place, a thing, a something, that might be thrown into the category of fear, because if that person, something, thing isn't there anymore, what do you do then? My advice, I guess, my mentoring, my, you know, my thought for the day is, might want to find a new way. That what can I depend on? I can always depend on me. Well, if I'm not very strong, I may not believe that I can do that, and we can. Every single person can at their level of play, and we're not all as strong as others. Some of us are weaker than others, but it doesn't. So sorry, that timer, I got a million of them and I forget to turn them off before I start my videos. My apologies. It doesn't mean that we don't have the ability at whatever level we have it. It's just a matter of play at your skill level, and, you know, do not underplay and definitely don't overplay. When we underplay, we're playing like we don't know what we're doing, and not believing that we have the power to make any changes. For a million different reasons, because somebody said we couldn't, or we failed at some point. Doesn't matter. We all have the ability to play at our level. And then when we overplay, that's when we're playing above our skill level, and we might be around people that just haven't woken up yet to, yeah, you're not really as good at this game as you thought you were, because I'm awake now and onto you, and you smell funny, you know, gotta get away with you, or get away from you. And so there's a lot of different scenarios that can be happening, right? That fear is the common denominator for all of it. It's just a matter of how are we going to deal with that fear, how are we going to cope with that fear, and how are we going to move through that fear and use that as a mechanism for change, a mechanism for alchemy. Transforming it into something usable means that I take that fear, I face it head on. You know, even if I have to do it in increments of 1 degree at a time, start moving towards that. What am I afraid of? And for people that tell me I ain't afraid of anything, those aren't people that are going to hear this or want to hear it or even be able to hear it. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when we have a legit fear, we're having nightmares, we're having visitation of something we can't explain, or we're feeling crazy and out of control and all this other stuff, you know, that when we can face that and really get quiet and contemplative and say, what is that? What's going on here? Name yourself, unpocket yourself, you know, and identify yourself. What is this? It's a matter of being able to go in there and then build the skill set. No one comes out of the booby hatch already a gymnast, of, you know, gold medal gymnast. They come out of the booby hatch already predispositioned, perhaps. However, if they never go down that road, never get stronger, never practice and rely on their inherent skill, then they don't get stronger, they don't get better, and they don't get a gold medal. So people that are afraid that, you know, I'm being accosted by all this stuff, we can do a whole lot more than we do. However, to expect that we're never going to have another, bad experience or never be afraid again, the dark night of the soul, it's a million times a day every time that we're brought to a place of, how do I want to play? Do I want to play as if, do I want to play as if I don't have any power in this, or do I want to assume that I've got something I can do with this? Even if it's just a 1-degree turn, then it's a 1-degree turn. If it's a full 180, cool, that's awesome. I'm walking right towards the light. I'm not going the wrong direction. That's awesome. However, very few people can just, do a 180 abruptly and have that stick, And so by congratulating ourselves and giving ourselves a pat on the back and some real supplemental yay me, because not everybody will do that with you or for you. And it's okay, they don't have to. The more we do it for ourselves and really believe that, engage in that, and tap into that, the stronger we get, If we're lifting weights, we don't start lifting weights at 300 pounds. We don't do a deadlift starting with the max that we're going to be able to do some amount of time in the future, do we? We don't start, in the NFL, we start in the Pee Wee leagues or whatever. We don't start being the master, whatever we are, until we've learned, we've gone through some apprenticeship program of some kind. It's the same thing with spirituality, that be a spiritual apprentice and find the way by asking, what is the way? And then when something weird comes your way, you can say, hey, what is this? Protect yourself. Call in whatever you call in that you think is protecting you and that you really know is protecting you. If it's, a rosary, if it's the cross, if it's, doing bead work, or, working with water, or whatever it is, I'm not turning anything down. If it's working for your good all the way around, then that's what I'm talking about. But get connected with that part of you that will tell you what you need to do, where you can go, what I can seek out, where I can find it. Because that part of you, trust me, the more attention you pay to it, the stronger it will get exponentially. It speeds up. It can't help but speed up because you're changing the vibration, and it's a self-feeding cycle. Same with, going dirty. Notice how you feel whenever you start getting around people who are really, and it starts the whole mob mentality. The same thing happens the other direction. We just have less people that are doing that. We want to be around somebody who seems like they're in a good mood and they feel better, right? That can help me feel better, right? It seems reasonable, and yet it's so much easier to just go with the dirty, go with the ego, go with the nasty, go with the throw of, really, whatever it is. Find the worst thing. That's what we do naturally, or most inherently lately. It's not what we naturally can do. It is what we have done and what we do right now as human beings. But it is not our natural state of being to be hateful and to be full of rage, to be, just monster people who are throwing around energy in just most horrific ways, in ways that a majority of the planet has no clue what's really going on in the subterfuge. And it's the subterfuge, unfortunately, that will dictate how well a person's existence is going to go. If we're not aware of that, if we don't believe in it, we think it's stupid, blah, 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 any number of things, then we can be having stuff thrown at us and be terrified and having nightmares and having all these horrible experiences and have no idea why. And that's why I'm telling you, is that if you're here and you're this far, you're probably into some sort of spirituality or spiritual practice of some kind, and you might be willing to believe something that's, out of the norm, perhaps. That there's a lot more going on, and yet we have a whole lot more ability to affect change than we are being told sometimes. And if we're around people who really don't like us changing, don't want us changing, or we've separated from that and they're still clinging and hanging like sand spurs and stuff, just feel free to flick them off, because you have that kind of power, you have that kind of ability, and every part of the natural world is willing to help us. We can ask anywhere along the point. Anybody can ask anywhere along any point of intersection with the world. We can ask for help. It's a matter of starting here, for me anyway, and what I highly suggest. However, people all find their way. The road to Damascus is the road to Damascus. However you get there, as long as it's headed for Damascus. It's just we have a lot of people who say they're headed for Damascus and they're passing us saying, no, it's this way. It's not. If somebody smells funny, you're not headed towards Damascus, man. I'm not headed that way. So It's a matter, though, of finding the ability to stand in that and to grow that skill of, I know that I can get in touch here, and in here is what's going to inform me for where I go out here. And intuition is something that every single person has. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the hairs on the back of our neck stand up and go, something funky there. And when it's so deadened out and dumbed down by our outside world, it's only a matter of clearing out the clutter in your butter, baby, and getting it more honed. It may take some time, and it does. If it's been very, deadened out and dumbed down, it will take some time sometimes. But the more surgical we are with that, every single time I'm going to, nope, I'm not accepting delivery of that terrible thought. Nope, I'm not having that conversation with that person. No, I refuse this, whatever. And yes, I do absolutely accept the infusion of knowledge that I'm getting from upper higher college. Thank you. I'll take that and refuse that. So grow those skills by using those skills. And there's no one, I don't care what anybody says, and I've heard a whole lot of junk about this, about, well, you need to do that. If you know inside, your spirit is telling you, you have something that you can do to protect yourself, to pray a certain way, to do, please use whatever works for you. If it takes you to that sense of peace, joy, and just, I'm okay with the world, I'm at one, I'm at peace, then please stick with that and keep asking that to help you. Please ask that to help bring you to a place of better understanding. Through. Thank you very much. Please use that as the starting point, so you know what it feels like to be in touch with that, and that will continue to grow. I've never seen myself anyway, and I really haven't looked at anybody else, but I know for myself, whenever people were telling me, it has to be this, it has to be this, you must go this way, anytime that I felt pushed, that I had to do something a certain way, it never worked. If there was resistance in me to it, then that was something that they were neglecting to say, yeah, and if it's a real push for you, come back and let's talk about that. I've been mentored by quite a few spiritualists in my life, paid big money for one, who was telling me all kinds of just didn't work stuff. But anyway, that was my bad for trusting her, because I was getting the signals way ahead of time of, don't get involved in that program, it's a waste of your money, and you had to borrow money to get there. So it was a bad thing, except it was a good lesson. I learned that if it's something that I'm meeting resistance in me, it could be me just putting my foot down and I don't want to. And it's also needing to be addressed regardless of what it is, because it can be that people have something, that can help us a great deal. And it can also be that that's not the best way that will work for you. And it doesn't matter, because if it ultimately brings you to a point of resistance and then quitting and going, this is dumb, or never mind, or I must be too stupid, or I must not be holy enough, or if it gets into that whole dialogue, then you've taken 3 steps back. And I'm not about people spinning and toiling and embroiled in just junk, nor am I about helping people take 3 steps back. I'm about helping people to, let's find your way by you find your way. Fighting your demons means you have to fight them. I can give ideas, I can make suggestions, and I can say things that might be helpful. People have been helpful to me too, that were helpful to me, and to help fight my demons, so to speak. So it's not that other human beings can't be helpful. It's a matter, though, that the actual work of getting inside and dealing with the fear and the, oh my God, what is this right here? That's something I had to do. Meet Jesus on your own. That's a solo meeting, as far as I know. I've never had my come to Jesus meeting that included anyone else but me, and my creator, my divinity, in the myriad ways that it showed up. There wasn't anybody else there. So even in a deathbed experience, where I was very, 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 very sick, even though people were surrounding me, I still had to deal with my own fear and meet my own mortality and say, how am I going to deal with this? What am I going to do? Well, you got to pack this up and take it inside, because there isn't anybody out here that can do anything for you. And how I figured that out was that nothing was making me feel any better, except to start getting very quiet and say, okay, well, this is mortality hitting me right in my face, and there's quite a possibility that this isn't going to go well. Okay, so it doesn't matter if there's nobody or if there's 2,000 people standing by my bedside. It's still between me and divinity to get real jiggy with one another, and for me to get jiggy with it, because I don't understand what this is. And even though I really wasn't in my spiritual awakening process at that time, I did understand I'm going to have to get okay with the possibility that this might be very sad in a couple of days. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how this goes. But to release and let go of that means deal with the fear of you might be saying goodbye when they take you away for this surgery. That might be the last time that you see them or that they see you. You're going on somewhere else. And if I hadn't faced that, then that was going to be something that the procedure would not have gone as well, I'm sure, and it would have still be haunting me, because it's a matter of dealing with those fears, dealing with those, what the hells, all of them, and they come in themes, for most people. So anyway, I hope that's helped you in some way possible, and I hope you enjoy your day, whatever part of the day you're in. And remember, get within your skin, because you're divine. It is absolutely fine, and it's the toughest, most vibranium-coated warrior that you could possibly ask for. There is nothing that can stop that warrior in you. It may be slowed down out here by 3D stuff. However, once we hook up into that little warrior inside, it makes the formidable force come out here a little bit more in 3D, which is a little more believable. However, when you're just starting that journey, it requires to really believe it in here first so that it can bring itself out into 3D. So anyway, take care of yourselves and be well. See you again next time, friends. Bye-bye.